This is the Blood Red podcast from the Liverpool Echo.
Hello and welcome to the Liverpool Blood Red podcast. I'm your host today and I'm Connor Dunn. I've currently got one arm as I had a bit of surgery on Tuesday, which you might be able to see if you're watching this. Hello everybody. Joining me is Paul Gorst. Paul, how are you?
I'm good, Connor. I'm not too bad. I think I'm doing better than you actually at the moment.
Yeah, I think most people are doing better than me at the moment, to be fair. But hey, I'm still chipper and excited. Ian Doyle, how are you?
I'm okay. You are never not excited. Were you absolutely super enthused while you were having surgery, though?
I was actually unaware of the surgery, so couldn't be as
I was going to say, you would have been knocked out.
I was quite excited before it.
Excited?
Yeah.
Like a nervous excitement.
I think just to get rid of the pain and get my arm fixed.
Yeah.
But, you know, and on my left is Caoimhe O'Neill.
I've already interrupted, haven't I?
Quite all right. How are you?
Yeah, good as well. I've got a bit of a sore shoulder, but I can't complain, can I?
No, you
definitely not.
What is wrong with these youngsters? Why can't they look after themselves?
Echo FC, injuries.
Anyway, some people who can look after themselves are Liverpool FC.
Oh, that's seamless. That is absolutely seamless.
Yeah.
That is why you're hosting.
Indeed. Once again, they have come through from behind against Aston Villa this weekend, 2-1. Paul, what did you make of it?
I thought for the first half, Liverpool were very poor, and Aston Villa's crowd certainly helped them. Newly promoted team, this is exactly why they fought so hard in the Championship to get back to the Premier League for these type of afternoons. The European champions, the Premier League leaders were there, and they played very well, to be fair to them. Second half, Liverpool played a lot better. Didn't really create too many golden opportunities. I think Adam Lallana's was probably the best one that they had prior to the equaliser, but kept plugging away. Didn't really change the game plan, didn't get too frantic or panicky, didn't start aimlessly knocking it long. They just stuck to what they know, and what they know works, and eventually it told. Andy Robertson's goal in the 87th minute, was it? And strangely, I never actually thought that Liverpool were going to lose that game. I've got into a weird thing where I just assume that Liverpool will always win until the final whistle, and I suppose that's a testament to their character and their resilience and everything else you want to throw at this team. Who were just an incredible team, so hard to keep out, so hard to stop, and even harder to beat. I think it's 28 games now without defeat, and what is it, 49, just one defeat in 49, dating back to the start of last season. So yeah, what a team. And it was once again they've left it late, but a massive win. That could be even greater when the medals are handed out in May.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just incredible the way Liverpool are just fighting every tooth and nail to the absolute death. But Ian, are you feeling the same as Paul, that Liverpool just can't really lose at the moment, or aren't going to lose games?
You will not be surprised to hear that I'm going to say no to that.
That is exactly why I asked that question.
I must admit, I did think, for the most part, you did get that impression, this is going to be the day where they were going to get beat, because they weren't poor in the first half. They were terrible in the first half. It's the worst they played all season. But you then look at the stats after the game, and I think Liverpool had 74% possession, 25 shots at goal. I think it's 25. 8 on target, of which obviously 2 ended up going in. And if you just looked at that and they had more corners, whatever have you, you go, well, no wonder they won. But it's just the fact that they keep on doing it in this way. What is it now? The late goal at United to get the draw, the late goal against Leicester. I mean, even the Tottenham one was like in the last 20 minutes, wasn't it? But not as late as the ones against Arsenal and in the League Cup in midweek, which was a completely different team, which I'm sure in your previous podcast you'll have spoken about and said, look, it doesn't matter who's playing for Liverpool. They've got it ingrained, haven't they? They just keep on going. And I think with with the game on Saturday, I mean, Klopp said it was lucky in the sense that they scored the goals late on, but Liverpool deserved to win because I read in, I think it was the Times, Jonathan Northcroft wrote, he said, look, Liverpool fans won't like this, but this reminds me very much of Man United under Sir Alex Ferguson, where they just play and play and play, and anyone who's old enough to remember watching them, they'd be losing or they'd be drawing, and you'd just be waiting and waiting and waiting for them to score. What was the commentary line? They always score in the last minute. I can't remember what game that was, but that's the kind of thing Liverpool have got now. You know, teams like Aston Villa knew. When that went to 1-1, I think everybody in that stadium thought, yeah. And Liverpool fans were like, come on. You only had to see Andy Robertson's reaction when he, normally when Liverpool score, he's the first one on the scene celebrating with everybody else. He scores, he just absolutely bombs it back into his own half, telling everybody else to get back.
Nice little swoop, wasn't it?
Like he hits it and goes, and then he just comes off, because he knows, there's going to be a bit of injury time. We've got a couple of minutes left in normal time. We can still win this. And they did. And there's that doesn't happen overnight. You only have to look at remember when one of Klopp's first games where they played Crystal Palace at home, and he saw when it was 1-1, and then he went to 2-1, didn't it? And all the fans started disappearing. He was like, I couldn't believe it. I felt so alone.
Yeah.
And that was, 4 years ago?
4 years ago.
4 years
November,
ago.
yeah.
And within 6 months, they were scoring a last-minute goal against Dortmund to win 4-3, which, it's funny now, you look at that and you think that was one of the great nights, but how many has there been since then? Yeah. So it started then, it's gone on from then. Even, there's been, another thing, I think it's also ingrained in Liverpool. I don't want to say the phrase DNA, which everybody says,
Just
to
said
death.
You literally just said it.
I literally just said, Roberto Martinez used to say it for Everton as well. But Liverpool have scored more last-minute and injury time winners than any other team in the Premier League in Premier League history by a long way. That's not lucky.
I think it's 10 more now, isn't it, than any other team?
I mean, at Anfield, you can kind of expect it, but what was impressive about the one at Aston Villa is the fact that it was away. And it doesn't seem to matter where they go. They just seem to know that they can get the job done. So, yeah, I understand what Gorsty's saying about, he never feels they can get beat. But I think the players kind of think that. And they think so. That's a good thing to have, especially with the certain big game coming up on Sunday.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, Liverpool didn't play particularly well during that first 45 minutes, Kiva, but of course, Fabinho did get a goal. He was judged to be offside by an armpit. What were your thoughts?
Ridiculous, wasn't it? It was just, I think
Even
when
the sentence is
you're
ridiculous.
watching it, and it was in the VAR room, and Martin Atkinson, famously, and he seemed to be the line. He was just taking it closer and moving it back, and then obviously since then we've seen a lot of people do their own version of it, and it's looked as though he was onside. It looked onside just watching it from in free play, so it just does make you question it. Jamie Carragher had a big rant about it yesterday, didn't he? And said, he was the one person who was believing in it and saying, "Come on, let's have it." Trust in them. What we've seen yesterday at Everton, even it just seems to be a lot of different things happening. And for Liverpool, I know we got the James Milner's penalty in the end. That they just confirm these decisions, but penalties are awarded anyway. I just feel like it's worked for a couple of things, but not for a lot. And they're not using their monitors at the side, are they? If he goes over and looks, I think he says, "Do you know what? I reckon that's on." But it's like they're scared to overrule what the decision's been made. So VAR, whoever's in that room is scared to overrule the referee, and the referee's scared to overrule VAR. So they're just protecting each other, and it's like having a really negative effect. And you do feel like you just want to scrap it. It's not going to get scrapped, so you've got to fix it. And how do they do that? By obviously looking at the monitors. I think that's the first thing they need to do.
I think the thing about the offside is that nearly all of the offsides we've seen so far, that's been that's offside, that's not offside. Even the close ones, you've kind of gone, oh, well, it was a game the other week with Son's toes
clear
offside,
cut,
but you can see that's the first real one where people have gone, hang on a minute. I think it's unfortunate. I'm not going to stick up for the referees, but I think it was unfortunate the angle that they had and the pose that the players were in. One of them didn't have the foot on the floor, and then he was out, and all their arms were out, and all that kind of stuff. So it was a difficult one in that. But what made it worse is, everyone will have seen the clip from Andy Gray going through it on beIN Sport.
Chris Mara as well.
Yeah, where they've had a look and gone, well, he's drawn this one initially, and then this line comes down. It doesn't seem right. And I've seen people trying to explain why. Martin, it may not even be him. I would imagine it's someone in the room that's more technical than him saying, "Can you please draw this, please?" Again, but yeah, I think it's also you have the whole thing of it came after Martin Atkinson was the referee at Old Trafford, and then we saw what happened at Everton yesterday, where he was on the receiving end of all these daft VAR calls, which as people have been saying. Why can't they just go to the pitch side monitor? Because surely that would in some ways be...
I can't remember any.
There hasn't been one.
That's ridiculous.
And then the referee gets the choice then, doesn't he, of changing his decision or sticking with his original call, and he's not being undermined by someone who's 200 miles away or wherever, in Stockley Park, sitting in a...
Where even is Stockley Park?
You love mentioning that.
Sounds like an underground bunker, doesn't it, of this?
But do you know what the funny thing is? They sit there in the referee kits.
Yeah,
I've seen
that's
that.
boss.
Have they got shorts on? I know they got the tops on.
I've never got shorts on.
It'd be great if they
short socks, boots.
Yeah, shin pads.
FKRW. That's what they would be. I'll let you work that one out later on.
One for our...
I've never known a player to score with his armpit. Imagine the commentators, it's gone on off his armpit. It just doesn't happen. It was a nonsense decision.
I'm sure there was one there where, was it Sterling and his elbow or something?
Against West Ham, I think.
And that was why
he can't score with his elbow, though. So.
It almost seems as if VAR has
like...
been kind of introduced to back up a decision the referee has made, whether that is right or wrong. I think we could probably talk about VAR and its decisions all day, so I'm probably going to bring it to a head there, because whatever we say about it, we're talking about decisions more than ever, and I think it's going to continue through the rest of this season, but it needs a review pretty quickly, I think. But anyway, on a more positive note, I thought Sadio Mane played extremely well when called upon in the final moments. You know, he's one that's producing again. You know, Salah was obviously taken off the pitch due to ankle knock. Kiva, what did you make of his performance?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Liverpool weren't great on the day, but I think he's your standout man, and he took it. He won us the game, really, didn't he? Obviously, he crossed it into Robbo, and then that header was just magnificent, and he got like a boot full, didn't he, for it? And, you know, that just, everyone was sharing that picture with, like, you know, the studs in his face. And it was like, you know, this is a man very, very hungry to win this Premier League. And, you know, I think he has been probably our best player this season, definitely going forward. And, you know, you watch him week in, week out, and you're just thinking, who is this fella? Because he is just an unbelievable footballer. The thing about him I love so much, it just, you never really know what he's going to do. And, like, he never seems to know what he's going to do, but he absolutely does at the same time. And I think that's a skill in itself, isn't it? He just sort of goes with it, and he plays in, like, this childlike but then world-class kind of way. He's just so... he's awesome to watch, and he deserves all the plaudits after Saturday's game, because I think, you know, we needed someone who was going to wrestle it, and obviously Salah's had this little bit of an injury, so he comes off, and, you know, Mane stays on. And even, you know, Liverpool do get better as the game wears on, because they have to get better, because they have to win. But, you know, he was showing bits all game, and I think he has all season. He's been absolutely wonderful.
Man of the moment for you, Paul?
Yeah, I'd have to say so. And I think that was his 8th goal, was it? Puts him level with Sadio Mane. And managed to speak to Virgil van Dijk after the game, and I asked him, what is it about this team that enables them to just always pull something out the bag, you know, when it's desperately needed. And for him, he just said, look, it's nothing crazy. We just carry on playing the same way, and that makes sense. I mean, you look for Robertson's equaliser, Liverpool desperately needing the goal in the last final seconds, and no one's really panicking or cowering or hiding or leaving it to other players. Mane still tries that pass with his left foot, whereas other teams, other players on other days might look to just pass it inside and keep it simple and you know, not look for stuff which might not come off. So stuff like that was, you know, that pass for Robertson was right on a sixpence, wasn't he? Couldn't miss, 6 yards out with a free header. And then for the winner, it's amazing how...
It's not a great corner, is it?
But Jurgen Klopp said after the game...
I thought that was... Yeah, they'd worked, hadn't it?
Liverpool were trying that short corner, that, you know, low flight of delivery to the near post. And when you look at it on the replay, Sadio Mane goes so far past the near post and manages to get it back across the far post into the corner without Tom Heaton getting near it. And he's took a boot in the face while he's done that. So he was just so determined to make that the decisive moment. And yeah, as you asked me, is he the man of the moment? He's got to be, hasn't he? I mean, particularly attacking wise, he never hides. He's never quiet, even when he's not having a great day. What a fantastic player.
Yeah, I only say about the delivery because I think it's just so far behind Mane, and obviously that is where he's trying to guide it to that far corner. But he stooped low. I just don't think it's where they're going to want it, really. When you look at that and freeze frame where he's heading that ball.
And if it doesn't go in, and then it's a 1-1 draw, you can't look at that delivery. But, you know, it did go in, so we can look at it going, that was a great delivery. But I know what you mean. When it come in, I was going...
Tell me different, Ian. Tell me different.
I was looking at it thinking, no one's getting their head to this, but then there you go.
They have practiced that quite a lot. I'm pretty sure they nearly scored from one in the Tottenham game or put it wide. I'm pretty sure that's right. So it's something that, you know, they got quite a few, you know, in their repertoire. I mean, a lot of the time they just put it in and then Van Dijk gets his head on it, and then, you know, then it gives the defence something to do. Funny thing about Mane is I don't think he played particularly well for nearly all of that game. Klopp spoke afterwards about he has great mentality because he obviously got booked for diving, which I don't think it was a penalty, but I also don't think it was a dive either. Not in the traditional sense of just falling over. He did get a touch, but it was never enough to win a penalty.
Bit theatrical.
And then the fans were on his back, the home fans. They tried to get him sent off at one point when he made a tackle. And I'm right in saying, was Mane give away the free kick for the goal, didn't he, as well? For the goal?
I think he did, actually, yeah.
So if you look at it, and he had a shot where he slipped and went, it fell over, and he had a header that he put wide, and then he obviously puts the ball in for Firmino, which should have been a goal. So he epitomised Liverpool in the sense that he wasn't playing particularly well, but he just stuck at it, and it was, when he was over, he got pushed onto the right wing when Salah went off, and that's obviously where he got the assist came from, and then, as we said, the old training ground routine paid off, and they got the win.
Absolutely. Going to stick with you for a moment as well and just talk about another player who didn't actually play against Villa, but is another man who is playing extremely well at the moment, and I think Liverpool missed him, is Fabinho. What did you kind of make of his non-inclusion, and do you think, what do you think comes next for Fabinho? I think he plays against Genk, and we'll move on to Genk in a minute as well.
Yes, we'll move on to that though in a bit. I think me and Paul spoke about it before the game. We said it wouldn't make any sense to play him against Aston Villa. The weird thing is that he was on the bench. I just think he shouldn't have been included at all if that was the case. Simply because, what would happen? Yeah, exactly. Why risk it? Liverpool going to go 1-0 down. So they were. In fact, there was that scenario we talked about. If he's 1-0 down, are they going to bring him on to try and change the game? I don't think so. So what was? And if they're winning 2-1, or we want to see the game
maybe
out,
just like
don't bring him on.
Superstition that he's been with the team, and just to keep him in there.
Well, it was the right decision not to play him. It was a gamble. Lallana was the interest, so that wasn't that much of a surprise. The surprise was actually playing Lallana in that position. And Klopp explained it afterwards. He says, "Look, we knew we'd get tons of possession, which they did. He says we knew that we would have, we needed a deep line playmaker, is what he said. He said we need players who are going to chip the ball forward and pass the ball through the gaps and all this, that, and the other. And while Fabinho can do that." Obviously, that's more Lallana's game. Problem is, in the first half, is that Villa, the way they played, it put Lallana under an awful lot of pressure because they put the long balls in and heading the ball clear and all that kind of stuff. That's not his forte, which meant that the two centre-backs were then exposed a little bit to Wesley. But you have to say, in the second half, they got to grips with them. I mean, Lovren wasn't great in the first half, but he improved massively after the break. Van Dijk didn't have his best game, but he still managed to get that tackling to prevent them from making it 2-0. So they all had their own little contributions in a way. Lallana... I wouldn't have been surprised if Lallana had started, say, Aston Villa at home, when they were going to get the same amount of possession, but they'd have known that the Villa team would have been sitting back even more because they were playing away from home. So in that sense, it was a surprise. But I know we've mentioned his miss, but Fabinho wouldn't have been in that position. You know what I mean? He wouldn't. So that's not a go for Fabinho because that's not his game. But there's no chance Fabinho's not playing against Man City, for example. He is one of Liverpool's most important players. Lallana. He can do that job. Will he do it loads of times this season? No. Will he do it again this season? Yeah.
Okay, fine, good. Another thing to note from the weekend, and I'll come to you for this, Paul, is happy 100 Trent Alexander-Arnold. I know you got to sit down with the young Scouse defender. Mm-hmm. Tell me more.
Yeah, just had a chance to chat to Trent last week ahead of that 100th appearance, and I think we all knew it was coming. And I thought he was probably Liverpool's best player actually on Saturday. He was the one who didn't dip below his usual high standards. I mean, you could say Mane as well, but I thought he was head and shoulders above every Liverpool player on the pitch. Once again, another assist for him. He put in so many great balls actually on Saturday, just raiding down the right. And he was unlucky actually with the free kick in the last minute, which actually resulted in the corner. It's a free kick in the day, if you haven't seen it yet, and it was set up for him, wasn't it, to crown his 100th appearance with the goal, and he struck it well, took a deflection just over, and then he's got the assist for the winner. Don't know what more you can say that hasn't already been said about him. He's played more games now than Steven Gerrard and Jamie Carragher at the same age. He's played 30 more games than Carragher at the same age, which when you consider Carragher played 737 times and is second on the all-time list is some achievement for a player who's only turned 21 last month. Brilliant player, so many years ahead of him at the elite level, Ballon d'Or nominee. Credit to Liverpool's coaching staff, credit to the city. Fast becoming one of my favourite Liverpool players.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, your chat you can read on the Liverpool Echo website, and he spoke about wanting to become captain one day, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. To be fair, he said that's something he's never shied away from, and he had that ambition when he was 17 or 18, so it was only going to grow as he got more seniority in the team. And the one thing I was actually surprised about when I spoke to him was I asked at what point did you start to feel like you weren't an academy player anymore and you were a senior member of this Liverpool team? And he said the Champions League final in 2018, which I think if you look back on it roughly, that would have been round about maybe his 50th Liverpool game. So we would have played in semi-finals and quarter-finals and you know, playing for the team who were pushing for the top four in the Premier League. So I'm surprised at that. I thought that might have come a lot earlier in his career, but it showed the mentality that he has, that he's never satisfied, he's never resting on his laurels, and he just wants to get better and better. And the captaincy comes into that bracket. So he's only 21 and he's got years on his side, and maybe one day we will see him with the captain's armband.
Absolutely right. So slightly moving on, but not moving on too far. After Liverpool won 2-1 against Aston Villa, Man City also won 2-1 against Southampton. And that really wasn't on Pep Guardiola's mind, was it, Ian Doyle?
No. I think, well, if you want to be chronologically correct, Man City won slightly before Liverpool did. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for correcting me.
That's okay. That's what I'm here for. Yeah. But the point being is that Pep said, we went into the dressing room after the game and it was still 1-1 at Aston Villa, and then he said, and then it was 2-1, and then he came out with this thing about, they've got great talent, etc. You know, it's not fortunate they keep scoring these late goals. Sometimes it's through diving, which was an obvious reference to Sadio Mane. I mean, there's been no recent history of any Manchester City players diving to win stuff. No history of them kind of bending the rules. No history of tactical fouls. No history of them putting...
Sterling and Sané are both on 3 yellow cards each for diving, and Liverpool overall in the last 2 seasons have had 3 between them.
All 3 of them for diving each?
Yeah.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. In the last 2 seasons.
And there's no history of them trying to put referees under pressure or questioning the...
They're just above board.
Questioning the authorities or in any way. There's been none of that from Manchester. Actually, there's a little bit of a cheap shot there from me, but not wrong. So, tough. Anyway, Pep, he does like to have a little chat about Liverpool. It's a complete contrast to Jurgen Klopp, or at least what Jurgen Klopp says in public, where he says, I asked him after the game, and he's like, he kind of making out he didn't even know what the Man City score was at that point, which was about 25 minutes after the Liverpool game had finished. So you're thinking, no, nobody points out to him, they won. I think he must have obviously known. But Pep just can't help himself, and we were talking about this in the office yesterday, weren't we? I know Joe Rimmer, who sometimes hosts this podcast, I think he's in a meeting at the moment, he was saying he absolutely loves Pep because he's just so competitive. It's like, you imagine just like playing, I don't know, a game of Tiddlywinks with him or something like that, or playing him on FIFA or something like that. He's the kind of person who just rage quits.
Throw the controller.
Yeah, exactly. He starts scoring on goals to get the game forfeited and stuff like that. Not that I do that, obviously. So in that sense, you can see it's all building up, isn't it? They weren't doing this last season. I wrote a piece yesterday, basically saying what I liked about the running last year, when they were winning game after game, they were taking turns winning. City would win one day, then Liverpool the next, then it'd be Liverpool and City. There was the respect they had for each other, and nice. They were all, it was good. It was just basically, let's just concentrate on the football and just winning and winning and winning.
Don't want that, though, do we?
Well,
with a needle,
but the needle's only going one way. Yeah, it's coming from City towards Liverpool, and it's the old thing. I'm going to mention Sir Alex Ferguson again in this podcast. What was accused of? Just mentioning United whenever I can. But what was said about him is that you were always his friend until you started beating him. Benitez, Mourinho, Wenger, people like that. And I think Guardiola's a little bit the same. He's all very pally until he suddenly realises, hang on, these are a threat. And I think it's kind of getting that way with Liverpool. I think the club overall with City, there's the thing on the plane as well after the end of last season, which I know they've apologised for, but it wasn't particularly clever. There's been one or two other bits and bobs. The fixture thing, the operating manager at City came out and said, what was it, compromising the sporting integrity of the competition or something, which kind of basically saying that it's favouring another team, and the obvious implication there is it's Liverpool. So I think...
It's quite ironic from Manchester City bleating about sporting integrity.
I think, Manchester City are a great team, love Pep, I think he's great, they've got so many good players, but the fact that they're coming out, or certainly the manager's coming out with something like this, suggests that he knows Liverpool. We already knew that they were the main competition, but I think he realises now that Liverpool are going to be a team that they are going to have to hope messes up, basically. Yeah. If Liverpool beat City, without wishing to look too far ahead, Liverpool beat City on Sunday, they're going to be 9 points clear, which is a lot. It's a lot of games to make up. It's a long way to go, but you can see City are starting to get a little bit nervous.
Yeah.
What I took from that, him coming out straight away and speaking about Liverpool and saying, like, hinting at Mane diving. Obviously, someone in the dressing room said to him, Mane got yellow carded, but then he went on to score the winner. He must know these things have happened. And then he's been fuming a little bit, thinking, it was 1-1 and then it was 2-1. And they've all sort of experienced that in the dressing room together, like, oh, Liverpool have just scored in the last minute. And that must have been gutting for them, thinking, well, we could have closed the gap a little bit there ahead of, obviously, this Sunday's big showdown. And I think that just told to me that there's cracks there a little bit. There was fury. And I don't mind that because I think, it's a passionate thing. But I feel like he might have just slipped up by just giving Liverpool... He's give Jurgen Klopp something now, and this Liverpool team, particularly Mane. Surely he's going to know that he said this about him. And, like, how does this affect him on Sunday? Obviously, we said he didn't have the best game, but he popped up with the 2 vital moments for Liverpool. I think this is just fuel now to Mane's fire. And I think you'll see... hopefully the best, and obviously last season, them inches and stuff. All this now is just, it's going to be the biggest game of the season, isn't it?
I want to see Mane do a swan dive for a penalty.
in front of Guardiola.
Yeah, top end.
So I was going to ask you there, Caoimhe, obviously the dynamic between Liverpool and City has changed a little bit. I think City were probably on top last season, but now Liverpool seem to be in that position, teams would turn up to play City at the Etihad and maybe try and get away with a 1-0 loss and think we've got bigger and better games to move on to. But now they kind of look beatable. Liverpool seem stronger, seem like, McGinn came out after the Villa game and said, they knew that Liverpool kept on pressing, they just wore them down. Why do you think that dynamic has changed? Why do you think City have, maybe just gone behind Liverpool a little bit?
I don't think the injuries have helped, have they? Obviously, they've had quite a few senior injuries to their squad, obviously Laporte and players like that. So they've been having to play midfielders in defence, which obviously doesn't help. We wouldn't enjoy that as Liverpool as much as we've got these versatile players, as much as City. You don't really want to see Fabinho alongside Van Dijk, do you? You want to see him in his natural sort of deep line midfield role. So, obviously I think that takes its toll, but City, just to get that point past us last year, I think it just took everything out of them. And I kind of like what Tottenham have done this season, getting to the Champions League final, not winning. They're kind of just like a bit knackered seeming, that kind of... But obviously City aren't, and they're going to keep coming for Liverpool. And, they're not too far away, are they, from us, really? It'd be 3 points if they get a win on Sunday. So, they're always going to be that way. But I just feel like Liverpool, knowing that that point... last season, I just think it's fuel, isn't it? Like I said before, Mane will be going this weekend. They all will be, and they'll know that they could have been Premier League champions. They quickly forgot about that. Obviously, what happened with Madrid, but they're not going to really be forgetting it, are they? And I think that's one of the major differences this season is just that Liverpool. I just feel like they want it more, and I think it didn't help City. Obviously, they played Southampton in midweek, didn't they, in the League Cup, and then obviously had to play them at the weekend. Southampton coming on the back of a 9-0 defeat at Leicester. So obviously they need to turn things around. They're in the relegation zone. But other teams have obviously had this thing. Norwich and Newcastle was it as well this season, got beat by. Yeah. I just feel like teams are sussing out City and Liverpool this season, but Liverpool aren't letting them get to them in the same way.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, we'll obviously discuss City in an incredible amount of depth next Friday, which I'm sure you'll all be super excited and tuning in for, where we hopefully will also be dissecting a win against Genk on Wednesday. Just before we move in to a little bit of Genk stuff, there was the mini derby on Saturday. The Liverpool under-23s played Everton under-23s, and I'll talk about this because I don't think anybody really knows a great deal. If I'm honest. Everybody was at Aston Villa.
Yeah. I mean, we know that they won.
Yeah.
And I've seen quite a bit of the under-23s this season, and I know I think the under-23s basically they're a team who basically built to attack. That's basically what they try and do. I mean, you look at some of the scores they've had lately.
Curtis Jones, you're always going to be that way inclined.
Some of the scores have been like ridiculous, 3-0, 4-3, and stuff like that. So they've all been, close games, and obviously this was another one.
They've not been, doing the best this season, have they? And that doesn't help because, some of your best players go up to the first team, they travel with the squads and things like that. So you never really know with the 23s your full squad who you're going to get until probably a few days before, maybe even on the day of the game. But as it happened, Tony Gallagher opened the scoring for Liverpool. Dennis Ademrian equalised in the first half, and then as is the Liverpool way at the moment. In the final moments, Herbie Kane scored a 25-yard absolute screamer to win the game 2-1 for Liverpool. And, once again, Liverpool have proved that they can do a job in the final moments and, push till the very end. I know that Neil Critchley, the under-23s boss, came out afterwards and he praised Yasser Larouci, who I'm actually a massive fan of, and I've seen him a few times and he plays at left back, but he actually played up front for Liverpool and Jones and Elliott were either side of him, and he played really, really well, and he was attacking the defence and holding the ball up well for Liverpool and really getting Liverpool into good positions. Though he didn't score, he played really well, and I think he's probably one to watch out for in a number of positions, to be honest. But
he's played up front for the under-23s a couple of times this season. They played in the Premier League Cup against Wigan. He played up front and they won 3-2. Once again, he didn't score, but he brought other people into play, and he was a winger when he first started as well, so he's not averse to going at it. But what that does show is, I wrote this last week actually, that if you remember, Paul Glatzel, Bobby Duncan, Ryan Brewster, Fidel O'Rourke, there had quite a lot of players last season, and now Glatzel and O'Rourke are injured, Duncan's gone, and Brewster's spending most of his time with the first team. So they're under 23 and to a lesser extent under 18 because they've got Leighton Stewart. They're struggling for actual main frontline centre forwards, but when you've got people like, as Gorsty said, Curtis Jones and Harvey Elliott played as well, that they're always going to have a goal threat.
When they played at Napoli, they almost played with Harvey Elliott as like a false nine. They played with the three up front that day and didn't really work. They didn't have much of a presence, and it was Leighton Stewart who got the equaliser.
He scores goals.
He does like a goal.
He's very much seen, I think, as an archetypal number 9, but he's only just moved up to 18, so he might have a couple of years yet before he's with the 23s every week. So I think it's interesting that the fact that they're playing Larouci there as a centre forward. I'm with you. I think he's a great player with loads of potential. So it'll be interesting to see if he can kind of make that adjustment from left back to a centre forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
and they'll probably all be playing on Tuesday as well.
Yeah,
in the UEFA Youth League at the home of sport, St Helens.
Absolutely, and they'll be playing against Genk, won't they?
Indeed, yes.
And the first team will also be playing against Genk.
Seamless transitions. Everyone.
So many this podcast. It's full of transitions. Anyway, I'm going to talk a little bit at first about team news for Genk. We've discussed Fabinho. I guess everybody thinks he's going to come back in, Paul.
I guess so. He's one of the... Well, he is the first name on the team sheet in the midfield, isn't he? And he was left out for a very specific reason on Saturday, so I see no reason why he won't come back in. I imagine Gini Wijnaldum and Jordan Henderson alongside them. But yeah, I expect Fabinho to start tomorrow night and then Sunday as well.
I think there's a question as well, and I think that's probably what needs to be said about Fabinho, really, because I think he's going to play, about the centre-backs. Do you rest Virgil van Dijk, Ian Doyle?
No, you rest Dejan Lovren. Joe Gomez has to play. Joe Gomez will play. Are we going to do the team now?
Well, I mean, you can sort of go through it, but I was going to say I would play Lovren and Gomez.
Interesting. It's interesting.
Then again, I think you might see you might see the same midfield as the away game.
I hope he doesn't, for my sake.
Keita and Oxlade-Chamberlain.
Because I wrote a piece saying, this will never get seen for ages.
That's true,
absolutely slaughtered.
I don't know if Fabinho does start with him, but then I don't think he can go into the City game cold is my only worry. But I just feel like we know how important he is, and his absence on Saturday pretty much proved that, if we didn't already know. But I feel like we can have a more... We played against Genk and they look quite good, didn't they, going forward and stuff. But I just feel like we can play a bit more of a dynamic midfield and, mix it up a little bit, throw Ox in and probably Keita as well and Wijnaldum, and just let him have a little bit more rest. But then my only worry is, does then he just...
Do you give him half an hour off the bench?
Do you know what I mean? Just to give him that fluidity and the momentum going into the weekend, because I feel like if you left him out completely cold, he would lose that, off the back of an international break, even though, as Klopp said, he just flies, doesn't he?
So this has been a bit of a higgledy-piggledy team news, but I was just going to go through the big questions first and then go through our teams in a minute. I think the other question is about Salah. Clearly, he's still having a little bit of issue after that Chowdhury tackle against Leicester. He's clearly having an issue with his ankle. That's why he was brought off. Klopp never brings him off. Do you think he plays against Genk?
No, I don't actually. It's been a month now, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Since that shocking tackle from Chowdhury, and he missed Manchester United because of it, and he's getting brought off, and Klopp said on Friday that it wasn't a real injury, it was just more of an annoying one, and he just needs to have a little bit of fluid taken out of the ankle, but it's still troubling him, definitely. So I think maybe this is the ideal time to bring on Divock Origi.
I think there'll be loads of changes. I think you could have as many as 6.
Oh, okay. Right, let's go through the team then. In goal, Alisson Becker. Kiva?
Yep.
Yeah. Left back, Andy Robertson.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, hello.
Liverpool's still going to win this game.
Larouci coming in.
Not Larouci, no. I mean, I think Milner's playing somewhere. Let's put it that way. That's what my
so
thing
for you,
would be.
Is he playing at left back?
I don't. No, let's go with Robertson. Let's stay with Robertson.
Okay. Well, as I've already discussed, I think centre backs for me, I would play Gomez and Lovren. I think obviously Van Dijk has played every minute as he always does. I think he needs a rest. Every player needs a rest, no matter who you are, no matter where you're playing, unless probably you're a goalkeeper. He does a lot of work, he does a lot of running, he does a lot of covering, and I just don't think a 90 minutes would do him any bad sitting out. Kiva?
No, I'll have to disagree just because I feel like...
I think everyone would disagree. It's fine.
It's uncomfortable watching Liverpool without him, I think, at the back, isn't it? There's still that little bit of discomfort.
He's the father figure, isn't he?
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If Gomez and Lovren played, I think they stand in good stead of getting a clean sheet. I just feel like you say he's the father figure. Godlike, I'd say.
Wow.
Well, the God was the father of Jesus, apparently.
Ian?
Yes. No, Gomez and Van Dijk centre-back.
Okay.
I think I'd stick with Lovren, actually, Lovren and Van Dijk, because it seems as though Lovren has nudged his way ahead of Joe Gomez. I actually thought maybe it was a chance, with Matip injured, it was a chance for Gomez to come in and just stay in the team and rebuild his momentum and whatever else to the point that he was at last season. But it seems that Klopp is sticking with Lovren for now, so I don't see any point in disrupting that for this one.
I'm putting Gomez in, by the way. I don't think I clarified that.
Yeah, no, fair enough.
Went round the world and...
Just God, Jesus' disciples and Gomez.
Yeah. There we go.
Midfield, we know Fabinho's playing. No, we don't. Go on. I think for me, it's probably going to be Fabinho. I think it's going to be Wijnaldum, and I think it's going to be Milner because I'm not playing him at left back. Kiva?
I think you could have Milner replacing Fabinho in the midfield and have Ox and Keita. That's mad, I know, but just do something. I don't want Henderson. He was brilliant at the end of the game, and it's great to have him because I think I've seen his touches and everything got better as the game went on. Well, I think the Liverpool's performance at the weekend, I just feel like we need to just do something that's going to have a little bit of respite for them going into what is the biggest game of the season. You've surely got to think ahead to that. And I feel like Oxlade-Chamberlain and Naby Keita had a great game against Genk, and they've proved themselves when they come on at Old Trafford. And I just feel like they need a little bit more leverage now from Klopp. They need just a little bit more time to bask in their own qualities.
Ian?
Fabinho, Milner and Keita.
Okay.
Fabinho, Oxlade-Chamberlain and Keita with a chance to redeem himself from a really disappointing performance against Arsenal. Yeah, that's my midfield 3.
Okay, fair enough. I think Keita and Oxlade-Chamberlain will probably be involved at some point. But as you've pointed out, Liverpool need to win this game, which I'll come on to in a minute. Up front, I don't think Salah's going to play. I think he needs a rest. So I think it's going to be Origi, Firmino and Mane. Does everybody agree?
Yep.
Okay, good. Liverpool currently sit in second in their group, don't they? They're 1 point behind Napoli. Genk are only on a single point after 3 games. If Liverpool win this, it puts them in such a good position to qualify, doesn't it, Ian?
It does, and if Napoli beats Salzburg, which there's every chance, then you'd have Salzburg on 3, Napoli on 12, Liverpool on 9, and Genk on 1.
Liverpool on 11.
No, 9.
They're not. They're on 8
right
now.
No, they're not. They're on 6.
Are they?
Yeah, they lost the first game.
Lost against Napoli.
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
My apologies.
And also, you don't get 2 points for a draw. Other than that, you've done really well there.
Well done, me.
So I know that's all ifs and buts, but Liverpool just have to concentrate on winning this game. They should win it. But yeah, if Napoli beat Salzburg, that'd do them a bit of a favour, because then you could have the interesting thing of Liverpool's next game being against Napoli, and Napoli coming to Anfield and knowing if they get a draw, they're through, and Liverpool knowing that if they get a draw, they're through with the game to go. Because
that Spider-Man meme's coming to me now. That just pointing at each other like, we can do this.
So I think Liverpool, will win.
Yeah. Fine. I don't think any more needs to be said about that, really, does it? Because we're obviously going to wait for Klopp's press conference this afternoon where the manager will tell us a bit more about players' injuries, a little bit more about Genk and looking ahead to the game. Gorsty, how do you think it's going to go?
I fully expect Liverpool to dominate. Genk have become the whipping boys of the group, haven't they? Even though they managed to draw against Napoli at home, was it? Was that where their draw came from? I mean, Liverpool, maybe 4-1 flat at Liverpool slightly in Belgium. They got the goal within the first minute with Oxlade-Chamberlain, and it was a contest until Oxlade-Chamberlain's second kind of took the wind out of them, and then Liverpool added the third and fourth late on. I think maybe that flat at Liverpool, but still fancy Liverpool to have no real problems at Anfield against them tomorrow. So I'm going to say 3-0.
Give a prediction?
4-0.
4-0?
3-1. Liverpool just forgotten how to keep clean sheets.
Winner, chicken dinner. Well, hopefully that happens and we come back on Friday to discuss a great win against Genk, an almost qualification for the Champions League, knockout rounds, and the game against Manchester City. Ooh, join us then. Thank you very much for listening.